He stood up. Let's listen in.
In Belém and the Earthshot Prize alongside His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. Mr. Speaker, the thoughts of the whole House remain with those affected by the appalling scenes that we saw in Huntingdon and Peterborough, where I spent 7 years of my life at school. We thank our emergency services for their outstanding professionalism and the individuals who showed such tremendous courage to defend others. Mr. Speaker, this weekend is Remembrance Sunday. We will never forget those who fought to defend our freedom. It's been one of the greatest honours of my career to meet our troops around the world, whether in Cyprus, the Gulf or Australia. This week, the government announced the biggest renewal of armed forces housing in more than 50 years, kick-starting one of Britain's most ambitious building programmes in decades. This morning, I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Come around.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I start by congratulating the Deputy Prime Minister on being the first black person to ever answer Prime Minister's question. A landmark moment for this place in our country, and I hope he is proud. Mr. Speaker, my 8-year-old constituent Phoebe is battling cancer, and her parents are fundraising to help with treatment costs and to raise awareness of Phoebe's condition. And people across my constituency have been moved by her story and have come together to raise over £122,000. So will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in paying tribute to Phoebe's inspirational bravery? And will he celebrate the incredible generosity and community spirit of Altrincham and Sale West?
Yeah. Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, it's very kind of the honourable gentleman to say that, and I'm conscious that my right honourable friend, the member for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, and indeed the leader of the opposition, are both trailblazers who've stood at this dispatch box, and it's important to recognise the progress that we've been made, particularly in the wake of Black History Month. I also thank my honourable friend for raising this issue. It's heartwarming to see a community rally around someone as brave as Phoebe. So I wish Phoebe, her twin brother Eric, and her parents Lindsay and Mark the very best in their fight against cancer.
Yeah. Shall the Secretary of State for Defence, James Coughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I begin by associating myself and the opposition with the remarks by the Deputy Prime Minister about the terrible and horrific attack in Huntingdon. We wish a speedy recovery to those still in hospital and pay tribute to the brave actions of the public and the police. Now, Mr. Speaker, overnight, the father of the girl assaulted in Epping by Hadish Gabatu, the illegal immigrant, released by accident, said the government had failed them relentlessly. Now, I confess, I'm surprised the Deputy Prime Minister hasn't already apologised. So I'm going to give him an opportunity now. Will he apologise to the family concerned?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, it's great to see the honourable gentleman in his place. I had expected to see the Shadow Justice Secretary, but nevertheless, I'm pleased to see the honourable gentleman. He must have missed the debate, because in the debate, of course, I said sorry for the anxiety caused whilst Kibatu was at large, and I repeat that, and it's hugely important that Dame Lynn Owers now gets to the bottom of what has happened with her further investigation.
James Coughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Watching the interview last night, I have to say it was absolutely heartbreaking. And I have to say, Mr. Speaker, I do think he owes it to offer an apology here on the floor of the House. But he should have done that at the start of his remarks, Mr. Speaker. These are very serious matters, Mr. Speaker, which is why I want to ask him a further very important question. Can he reassure the House that since Kibatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, the House is thankfully quiet, so I'm surprised the honourable gentleman didn't hear me when I said that, of course, I apologise and I'm sorry for the anxiety caused. But look, let me just remind him that he was a justice minister that allowed our prisons to get to this state in the first place. And it's now for us to fix the mess that we've got into. It's important that Dame Lynn Annowes can now continue her work and understand what is happening. He knows that early release has begun under their watch in 2021.
Mr. Speaker, these are extremely serious crimes that we are talking about. I'm going to ask him the question again. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a very specific question for him to answer.
Deputy Prime Minister.
After his release, I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system. It is important that Lynn Owens is able to get to the bottom of her work. I suspect there'll be more checks and balances we need to do. What we inherited was a complicated system that they set up, letting people out on the sly. That's part of the problem, and we're trying to fix it.
James Cartledge.
Mr. Speaker, he's the Justice Secretary. He's responsible for the justice system. He needs to take responsibility, and I'm asking him a straight question. And I'm going to repeat it once more for the avoidance of doubt, because he didn't answer it twice. He's here to answer questions. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a clear question. Can he give an answer?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Get a grip, man. I know I'm the Justice Secretary. That's why I'm at the dispatch box, also as Deputy Prime Minister. We know that. I'm not going to pray in aid. Dame Anne Owens is a former Deputy Commissioner in London, head of the NCA. It is for her to get to the bottom of that work. Of course, we know that there have been spikes since 2021 under his watch. When did he come to this House and apologise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of government is to take...
I want to hear both. Quiet. James Cartledge.
Mr. Speaker, it's getting noisier now, so just in case he didn't hear me. He's the Justice Secretary. Can he reassure the House that since...
Order. I will have no gestures from the balcony. Let me reassure you, don't gesture to me. It's not a wise decision. This is important. Prime Minister's questions, all our constituents are listening.
People in Epping and right across the country want to know the answer, Mr. Speaker. So I'm going to ask him again. He's the Justice Secretary. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I've got to tell you, I spent 14 years in opposition, and I did a hell of a lot better than he's just done. I have answered the question. Under their watch, prisons were in a mess. Suicides went up. Prison officers cut. 20,000 neighbourhood polices lost. We've deported more in the last year than they deported in the last 5 years. Please, I'm not going to take any lecture from the honourable gentleman.
Mr. Jewis and Mr. Stafford, you test my patience each week. Today's not the day to test my patience. We do have quite a bank holiday, so I certainly wouldn't want to be testing it at the moment. James Cartledge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The public are extremely concerned about what happened in the Kabatu case. They want to know there won't be a repeat. So I'm putting to him a very clear question about his responsibilities. I repeat, can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to being up against the member for Newark next time. In 25 years in this House, I've not witnessed a more shameful spectacle, frankly, than what the party opposite left in our justice system. Their criminal negligence on his watch as a former Justice Minister. They left our prisons on the brink of collapse entirely, threatening to allow offenders to run wild on our streets. He knows that. Rape victims waiting years for their day in court. He knows that. Neighbourhood policing decimated, leaving our people feeling unsafe in their communities, and they haven't learned a thing. We are tackling knife crime, that's why it's falling. 13,000 more bobbies we are putting on the streets, kicking out 5,000 foreign criminal offenders. I've got to say to the honourable gentleman, he should do better.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent, Georgia Hart.
More, I got it to 6. James Cartwright. Order. It is 6. All right. 6, you've had your 6. Sorry, I was correct. Jonathan Brash.
Mr. Speaker.
Order. Jonathan Brash.
Mr. Speaker, my constituent, Georgia Hart, was just 15 years old when she was diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia, a cruel and degenerative condition that slowly robs a person of their mobility and independence. Since then, her courageous parents have battled day in and day out to raise awareness and money to get her the treatment she needs. There is now a drug, omaveloxolone, which has been proven to slow the progression of the disease. Yet despite this, it's been stalled by NICE, partly because the number of patients affected is judged to be above the limit for ultra-rare conditions. Georgia and those like her are being failed not because the science isn't there, not because the treatment isn't there, but because simply the numbers do not add up. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree we cannot allow bureaucracy to stand in the way of life-changing treatment? And will he commit to ensuring that I, along with Ataxia UK, can meet the relevant minister at the earliest opportunity so that Georgia and her families do not lose more precious time?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, like the honourable member for Braintree, it doesn't seem that the spokesman can count, let alone stand up on behalf of the public. But can I thank my honourable friend? Our NHS has a strong record in delivering new medicines for rare diseases, and that evaluation process is rightly led by NICE. As I understand, the manufacturer of the new treatment for Friedreich's ataxia has withdrawn from this process. However, the door remains open for the company to re-engage, and I'm very happy to arrange a meeting that my honourable friend is seeking more broadly to help ensure everyone gets the care they deserve while investing an additional £29 billion in the National Health Service.
Daisy Cooper, Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my party, can I join the Deputy Prime Minister in expressing our horror at the terrifying knife attack at the weekend and pay tribute to all those, including the emergency services, who put themselves in harm's way to protect others. And as we approach Remembrance Sunday, can I also join him in remembering all those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our rights and our freedoms? Those rights and freedoms are now under threat in a way that we have not seen since the Second World War. Putin is waging war on our continent and interfering in democracies across Europe. The Chinese government is waging espionage against this House, and Elon Musk is inciting violence on our streets. To date, the government has failed to heed our calls for a new inquiry into Russian meddling, failed to place China on the enhanced tier of country threats, and failed to launch an MI5 investigation into the threat posed by Elon Musk. So can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister, what will it take for the government to act and protect our democracy?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I'm very grateful to the honourable lady. Can I just remind her, as Foreign Secretary, I stood at this dispatch box and I spoke to the China audit that we said we would do in coming into government, and we did that. I did it on the same day that we published our national security strategy. And of course, my defence colleague has also published the Strategic Defence Review. She looks across all three of those documents. They set this country in the best place possible to face down the threats that she rightly refers to.
Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope the Deputy Prime Minister in his new role will consider our calls again. But right now, families across the country are struggling with a cost of living crisis, yet the Chancellor is preparing to increase taxes. Meanwhile, because of high interest rates and arcane Treasury rules to do with quantitative easing, the big banks are making billions of pounds in windfall profits that they never expected, that they never relied on, and never had to take any risk to earn. So without asking the Deputy Prime Minister to preempt the Chancellor's budget, can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister which he thinks is fairer, taxing struggling families or taxing big banks?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, she knows we've got 80 years of convention, and it is for the Chancellor of the Exchequer to present her budget later on this month. But can I just say gently to her, it is under her government, in which they were in coalition with the Conservatives, that we saw austerity right across our country. And she will know that there are major parties proposing austerity again. And I know that the Chancellor will do everything she can to continue, as she set out yesterday, to invest in our NHS and our public services.
Tristan Osborne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The leader of my local council, Kent County Council, has said that they're a shop window on Reform UK, with councillors facing criminal charges, inappropriate conduct and behaviour, a defection, 5 expulsions, a failed Doge cost-cutting drive and an authoritarian leader who shouts and swears at colleagues. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with me that the people of Kent deserve so much better? And how is the government going to ensure that we deliver higher standards in local government?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I see the honourable member for Clacton in his seat. Reform said, this may be the first time I've seen him in Prime Ministers, but Mr. Speaker, Reform said that Kent County Council would be the best advert for what a Reform government would look like. They're delivering on the chaos that they promised and on standards in public life. I say to the honourable gentleman, no, Mr. Speaker, this is serious. I used to replace the honourable gentleman on LBC, so we've known each other for many years. The disgraceful, racist language that we heard from a Reform MP last week belongs in the dark ages. And
It feels like it comes around quicker every year, Mr. Speaker, because the 22nd to the 28th of November marks BBC Scam Awareness Week, and by sheer coincidence, the Chancellor has chosen that week of all weeks to deliver her budget. So given her previous broken promises on energy bills, on inflation and to businesses, can he confirm to the public that if they see something suspicious on tax at the budget, they should report it?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I usually look forward to the bombast that the honourable gentleman brings to the chamber, but as usual, the SNP will say anything to distract from their appalling record. In the week where Scotland's Health Secretary had to apologise for the state of the health service on their watch, he could have mentioned that in his question. We will see what is in the budget later on this month.
Charlotte Littles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the thoughts of the whole House will be with everyone affected by the Huntingdon attack, and we should praise the actions of the train's driver, Andrew Johnson, and the heroic guard, Sami Zatuni. In my mind, a worthy candidate for consideration for the George Cross, as we wish him well in his continued recovery. Andrew Johnson told ITV News he was, quote, just doing his job. Will the Deputy Prime Minister take this opportunity from the dispatch box to recognise the importance of our railway crews, drivers and station staff and the vital role they play in keeping us all safe, from averting suicides on the rail network to dealing with antisocial behaviour and emergencies like we've seen this week?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend. The actions of the driver, Andrew Johnson, and the train staff member, Zamir Zatouni, were nothing less than heroic. And I'm sure that the whole House would agree that some form of recognition is absolutely deserved. Our country is defined by these people working on the front line, caring for and supporting the public every single day. I'm proud to be part of a government that's fighting for them, increasing their pay, tackling the cost of living crisis and fixing the public services that we rely on.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on Sunday and on Tuesday, we will honour those that made the ultimate sacrifice from not only this country, but across the Commonwealth. Which is why I wear not only the poppy, but the marigold to honour the Commonwealth troops that gave their lives. But next Sunday, the week on Sunday, will be the parade at the Cenotaph by the Association of Jewish Ex-Servicemen and Women, where Jewish people will come together. Veterans, men, women and children will parade with the medals that their forefathers won during World War II and the Great War and other conflicts. So it will be particularly apposite to this year, with anti-Semitism on the rise, that a senior cabinet minister comes to that parade and lays a wreath on behalf of this House and the whole country to remember the Jewish people that gave their lives for this country so we could all be free.
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'm very grateful to the honourable member for his question. I bought a new suit this morning because my godmother said she would be watching. But his question brings to mind the West Indies Regiment and their contribution in 2 world wars. And I'm very grateful to the honourable member for Sunderland South for ensuring that despite wearing a new suit, I've managed to put my poppy on. We wear the poppy to remember all those who fought and died for this country. They represented every walk of life, every race and every religion. My ministerial colleague, the Noble Lord Coker, will be proud to lay a wreath at the annual Remembrance event at the Cenotaph to mark our enduring gratitude to generations of Jewish service personnel and veterans. And I'd like to thank Ajax for organising the event and for all they do throughout the year to keep alive the memory of Jewish people, many of whom are in my constituency, their descendants in my constituency in Stamford Hill, who gave their lives for this country.
Jean Joseph.
Mr. Speaker, I'm regularly contacted by leaseholders and residential freeholders from across Ashford, Hawkinge and villages who raise concerns about rising property management fees, poor service and lack of transparency over what they are being charged for. As they already pay council tax, it is wrong they pay extra for maintenance of roads and green areas on their estates. Will the Deputy Prime Minister update the House on the actions the government is taking to reform the current outdated system so that my constituents can look forward to having stronger rights, greater powers and improved protections?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, for millions of leaseholders, the dream of home ownership has fallen woefully short of what was promised. That's why we're implementing the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act, providing homeowners with greater rights, power and protections. We'll bring the injustice of fleasehold to an end, protecting people from unfair costs. And as he knows, my honourable friend for Greenwich is going to meet the director of First Port to address serious concerns over their performance.
Pete Wishaw.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On Monday at the dispatch box, the Defence Secretary said the Scottish Government were a threat to national security. A charge repeated this morning by the Scottish Secretary. What he, in effect, was saying is that a democratically elected government, elected by 1.3 million Scots, possess a threat to this country. I don't know if it's something the Deputy Prime Minister will repeat at the dispatch box today, but can he tell me why democratic Scotland is a threat to national security and China is not?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I took a DNA test a few years ago. I'm 5% Scot. The people of Scotland are not a threat. They're not a threat to national security. It's the SNP. And they decide to get rid of nuclear deterrent. It's a threat to national security. He should hide his head in shame.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is at this time of year that many of us think of those who have served their country and continue to do so. Those like my granddad, who served in World War II and brought up my dad and my uncles in forces accommodation. Those like my nephew, currently serving, who sends me videos of accommodation riddled with black mould. So would the Deputy Speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister, welcome with me the new Defence Housing Strategy announced this week, which will guarantee the end of the scandal of unfit forces accommodation? And will he guarantee to my residents in Stafford, Eccleshall and the villages, the 500 plus military families, that they will finally have accommodation fit for them?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I pay tribute to my honourable friend for championing our armed forces who make extraordinary sacrifices to keep our country safe. We are renewing our country, and that includes renewing our contract with those who commit the ultimate sacrifice. 4,000 military homes, that's 9 out of every 10, are going to be upgraded thanks to the $9 billion that we are investing, and of course that will include her constituency, homes fit for heroes, delivered by a Labour government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I echo the words of the member for Harrow East of how proud I am to wear the marigold alongside my poppy. Last year, Sadiq Khan was elected London Mayor with a promise to keep a police station front counter open in all 32 London boroughs 24 hours a day. Labour have just broken that promise to Londoners, as only 2 will remain. This year, the Met Police has 1,419 fewer police officers and staff, fewer people working hard to keep Londoners and our visitors safe. But in Sutton-on-Cheam, we've just had our High Street police team cut from 11 to just 4 officers, inevitably leaving my constituents less safe. So does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with the Liberal Democrats and Sir Mark Rowley that a shrinking Met Police force compromises their ability to keep Londoners safe?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, as he knows, the previous government cut police officers and PCSOs while also critically underfunding the criminal justice system. We're acting in London, funding the Met, Mr. Speaker, up to £262 million this year, and we're investing £200 million this year to put 3,000 more neighbourhood police on our streets by spring. Through our crime and policing bill, we'll also give them powers that they need, including enough tough new respect orders to tackle crime and make our streets safer. But I do just say gently to the honourable member, because he's a Liberal Democrat, they come to their feet, they ask for more funding, and then given the opportunity, they vote against the reforms that will actually grow our economy.
Laura Kirk-Smith.
Mr. Speaker, in Aylesbury I've been running a programme called Your Voice, Your Future to help young people engage with politics and shape the issues that matter to them. They've sent in ideas for the school curriculum review, they've advocated for better mental health support, and they've shared their fears about smartphones and social media. Will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in recognising the contributions and ideas of young people, and what more will he do to ensure that they can meaningfully engage in national policy?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I applaud my honourable friend? She's a passionate champion of the next generation. She will have seen my right honourable friend, the member for Sunderland South, launch her curriculum review, which will deliver high standards for every child, giving them the skills they need to thrive and boost their engagement in our democracy. And I'm proud that we'll also be giving 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote in our UK elections to make their powerful voices heard.
Mr. Speaker, burning waste is as polluting as burning coal, and we already have incinerator overcapacity. So when will this government renew the last government's pause on new incinerators? When will it end perverse deliver-all pay contracts with incinerator companies? And when will it deliver an incineration tax, like the landfill tax, to encourage waste reduction, reuse and recycling?
Deputy Prime Minister.
The honourable gentleman is very experienced. He knows that our country's future on energy is in renewables. That's why we're investing in renewables, and he should listen carefully to what the Right Honourable Prime Minister has got to say when he gets to COP. The Chancellor will have heard his observation in terms of further taxes. He's got to wait until the end of the month to see what happens.
Adam Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since this government has massively boosted the national minimum wage for young people, my constituents in Erewash earn far more than the £3.40 an hour I got paid in my first job just 17 years ago. What is the Deputy Prime Minister's response then to those, including the Conservatives and Reform, who claim that £10 an hour is too high a wage for young workers? And does he happen to know whether any of the Reform leaders' dozen extra jobs pay him less than £10 an hour?
Well, I was looking at the honourable member for Clacton's member's interests, and he's making quite a lot out of gold bullion. You've got to ask, why does he want to cut the minimum wage for people who are not making even 1% of what he is? The Labour Party's on the side of young people, boosting their wages and delivering the youth guarantee to help everyone realise their potential. And I hope young people recognise what the two other parties want on their record.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. People across the country are fed up of extensive and needless delays caused by road, rail and utility works happening at the same time, a failure to coordinate. My Transport Duty to Coordinate bill would fix this and cut disruption, supporting communities and the economy. Now, I understand the government is looking for ways to support the economy, apparently. Would he pass on my proposal to the Chancellor and back my bill?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'll certainly pass them on to the Chancellor.
Tom Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seeing a dentist is crucial not just for people's dental health, but also for their broader health and well-being. But access to NHS dentistry has been a growing problem for a number of years. And in my constituency of East Worthing and Shoreham, only 2 out of 10 dentists are taking on new adult NHS patients, and the number is the same for children. So can the Deputy Prime Minister set out what this government is doing to improve access to NHS dentistry and to put a healthy smile on my constituents' faces?
Deputy Prime Minister.
My honourable friend is right to raise this issue. It's an important issue up and down the country. We're taking action to address the appalling inheritance received by rolling out extra urgent and emergency appointments across the country. We're also reforming the dental contract, recruiting more dentists and making sure that they work in the National Health Service for a minimum of 3 years.
Mr. Speaker, the inclusion of Oxford University Hospital Trust in the rapid review of maternity and neonatal services is welcome. And reports today in the New Statesman and Channel 4 speak to failures at that trust. Will the Deputy Prime Minister commit that the outcomes of Baroness Amos's review will be carried out in full, and commit to this House that the review is the start of a sea change in maternity services and not a whitewash?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Baroness Amos is a dear friend of mine, and I know that the Health Secretary is considering her recommendations.
Janet Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have seen Hurricane Melissa devastate Jamaica and leave the country in crisis. The Imperial College Storm Model states that the hurricane was unlikely without climate change. Now, I know that Prime Minister is at COP30 representing the UK against climate change, but I asked my right honourable good friend, the Deputy Prime Minister, if he will ensure that the UK leads the way on preventing climate change.
Deputy Prime Minister, you're right.
Well, I'm deeply saddened by the loss of life and the scenes of devastation in the great country of Jamaica. And like the honourable member, I have relatives in Jamaica, and I thank and commend my honourable friend for her personal fundraising efforts. The Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary have been in touch with their counterparts to offer our full support, with 7.5 million of aid funding already mobilised. We've chartered flights from Jamaica for British nationals who are unable to fly home commercially. Jamaica will also receive 71 million from the Caribbean Risk Insurance Pool, funding which begun under the previous Labour government that they can draw on for their renewal.
Rishi Sunak.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for joining me at a recent event in Parliament to support the work of Prostate Cancer Research, a charity where I am an ambassador. He and I both believe that introducing a targeted national screening programme for prostate cancer is the right thing to do and would save lives. So does he also agree that the recent compelling results of the 162,000 patient European trial support this case, and that this evidence, alongside data from prostate cancer research and others, should be given significant weight by the UK's National Screening Committee?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, I thank the right honourable member. Too many of us will sadly know someone affected by prostate cancer, and I have too many members of my family that are living currently with prostate cancer, which is why I'm very proud to co-chair the prostate cancer research event this year and last year with him. And I share his determination to boost research, speed up treatment and deliver better care. Now, he knows I'm biased, but these are rightly decisions for the Health Secretary. The UK National Screening Committee is reviewing the latest evidence of prostate screening and considering whether any changes should be made to save lives. We've invested 42 million jointly with prostate...
Jenny Riddle-Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the past 15 years, there have been 170 cases of matricide, and in 2022, more women were killed by their sons than by strangers. Child-to-parent abuse is often linked to complex mental health, and earlier this year, I met with Laura and Ian, who are doing all they can to support their son with his rehabilitation after serving time in prison. Mr. Speaker, they are living in constant fear of physical harm from their son, who they love and adore. Will the Deputy Prime Minister support me in meeting the relevant minister to discuss the effects of child-to-parent abuse?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Matricide is a horrific crime, and we're committed to tackling it. Our VORG strategy will set out how we will halve violence against women, including domestic abuse, over the next decade. And, of course, I'll arrange for the Minister to meet with her.
Final question, Martin Vickers.
Mr. Speaker, Lindsay Oil Refinery in my constituency is under threat of closure with the loss of hundreds of jobs. A number of expressions of interest have been shown in taking over the whole site. If one of those passes the test of due diligence, could the Deputy Prime Minister give an assurance that the government will back the project and allow the continuation of operations at the refinery?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I can't give him that assurance from the dispatch box, but I will, of course, ensure that the relevant minister meets with him.
A point of order, is it to correct the number of questions that I was wrong?
And that's the conclusion of Prime Minister's questions.
It's on a serious issue, I think, Mr. Speaker, just to be clear. The Telegraph are reporting that a police manhunt has been launched for a second asylum seeker mistakenly freed from prison. The question is, Mr. Speaker, can you advise me on how I can ask the Justice Secretary whether he was aware of this when I asked him about it repeatedly in Prime Minister's question?
Do you want to? No. You put it on the record. Right, let's just move on. Front bench change over.
Well, basically it's happened again, and another really embarrassing episode for the government, just at the point when they've been making so much of the tight release checks that would be in place around our prisons, given that hugely embarrassing episode with the sex offender Hadush Kabatu, who was released on the 24th of October. We understand that, and we know from the Met Police who have confirmed it to us, that another foreign offender has been released. This time it was from HMP Wandsworth in South London. And we know that this is an Algerian offender. And the Met Police, in their statement to us, confirmed that there is now a manhunt underway to try and find him. Let's look at what they've told us. They say shortly after 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 4th of November, so yesterday, the Met was informed by the prison service that a prisoner had been released in error from HMP Wandsworth on Wednesday, the 29th of October. The prisoner is a 24-year-old Algerian man. Officers are carrying out urgent inquiries in an effort to locate him and return him to custody. So a 24-year-old Algerian offender is currently at large. We don't know where. We don't have details of his name or a description of this man. And the Metropolitan Police simply confirming that there is now a manhunt underway for this individual after he was released by mistake from Wandsworth Prison. And this comes just a couple of days, this release, after the Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary David Lammy vowed to have in place the most stringent release checks at prisons. And here it is, another example of that prison system release point not working and people being released in error. Now, Sky News understands that this Algerian offender was serving time for an offence of trespass with an intent to steal, but also does have previous convictions of sexual offending. So another desperately embarrassing moment for the prison service and the MOJ. I understand that the Justice Secretary is aware of this release. You may have seen within Deputy Prime Minister's questions that the Conservatives did push them on the issue of prison releases, and there were no precise answers from David Lammy as to whether or not anyone had been released. But it is now confirmed from the Metropolitan Police that this manhunt is underway to find this 24-year-old Algerian offender. It's not yet clear why there was that gap between him being released on the 29th of October and the Met Police only being informed about that release yesterday. So almost a week between the release and the police force conducting this manhunt being told that this prisoner was at large. So once again, huge questions for the Ministry of Justice as to what is going on within the prison service. We know that there's already an investigation being led by Lynn Owens, former very senior police officer at the Met Police. She's conducting an independent investigation into the release of Haddoush Kibatu at Chelmsford Prison. Now there is this next instance at Wandsworth Prison with another offender at large.
OK, Tom Parmenter, thank you very much. The breaking news then this afternoon. Another foreign prisoner is on the run after being mistakenly released. Sky News has learned. Our political correspondent Rob Powell is here with me. Rob, you were going to dissect Prime Minister's questions for us this afternoon, or Deputy Prime Minister's questions as it is now. And there was perhaps a little bit of confusion at the start because James Cartledge asked, I did make a note of it, 5 or 6 times, the same question. Can you guarantee no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally released? And of course, David Lammy couldn't give a straight answer. And now we know why.
Yeah, and the first thing I was going to ask was, do they know something that we don't? Well, obviously they did. They knew that in advance, and Conservatives are already saying it's absolutely remarkable that David Lammy didn't answer that question directly when he was asked several times in the Commons about that, because clearly what they were doing was setting a bit of a trap for David Lammy. They knew this had happened. They knew that he most likely knew as well, and they wanted to see whether he would say it or not. I think looking back, now we have all of the facts around what happened, it doesn't look good for David Lammy because he went in pretty hard against the Tory front bench, essentially accusing them of, with some merit, leaving the prison system in disarray. But it was a pretty sort of bombastic, aggressive way that he tried to tear in James Cartledge. And knowing what we knew now, and knowing, as Tom just said, that David Lammy was furnished with all those facts as well, it doesn't look particularly good for him.
And as we've been hearing, new stringent checks were put in place, yet this man managed to escape, and the police didn't seem to know about it until many days later.
Yeah, I think this was 5 days after Haddoush Kibatu was mistakenly released that this release happened as well. Given the the messaging that we got from the government and from David Lammy in the hours, the days after that was, look, we're on this isn't going to happen again. Yeah, it certainly doesn't look good that this has happened 5 days after. I guess the context is that actually mistaken releases, accidental releases are relatively common. I dug out the figures for 24-25. They're at a high in 24-25, around 262 mistakenly released prisoners. You look back in previous years and it sort of bumps around 87, 71 in 22-23. So when you consider that, if you've got 262 in a year, actually it's not unexpected that you might have someone within 5 days of this happening being mistakenly released. But I think given the high profile of what happened with the Chelmsford release with Hadush Kabatu, this was something that the government could really do without. And look, obviously the priority now for the police and for everyone is finding this guy, but it was a pretty canny and clever bit of politics there from the Conservatives as well. They've got pretty good at this actually over the last few months, and I think knowing that was coming, and then knowing that David Lammy was standing in for Keir Starmer and was already on the back foot over a story overnight about whether he had contacted directly the victim of the sex offender that was released last time, they've picked a topic that David Lammy was already very, very vulnerable on. And I think they have executed that political attack pretty much perfectly.
Yeah, OK. Rob, for the moment, thank you very much. I know you're going to stay with us as we chat to our panel. I'm joined now by Lola McAvoy, the Labour MP for Darlington, the Conservative MP for West Worcestershire, Harriet Baldwin, and Monica Harding, who's the Liberal Democrat MP for Esher and Walton. Very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. And perhaps a slightly different discussion we're going to have than the one we expected a short time ago. Lola McAvoy, perhaps we can start with you. I mean, it's happened again.
I know, and it's breaking news. Obviously, it is the first that I've heard, and I'm sure my colleagues on the panel have heard as well of this. I mean, it is indefensible to be releasing prisoners by mistake. I think there obviously needs to be questions answered urgently, and I have faith in the Met Police that they will get this criminal. It is absolutely shocking that when we saw the high-profile mistaken release last week, I was sat at home watching it, and I thought to myself, God, that's unbelievable that this high-profile man has been released. And then I thought, oh no, what if it's something that actually happens more than we know about? And as your colleague has just said, you know, I think since 2021 it was 17 a month were being released by mistake. It is just, it is shocking, and we've got to get a grip of it.
Yeah, I mean, for it to happen once is shocking. For it to happen twice is pretty unbelievable, especially after we're told that new stringent checks have been brought in. David Lammy himself taking charge of that.
Yeah, well, you would expect that there would be stringent checks anyway before the high-profile incidents, and clearly those checks are not working. I mean, whatever measures have been put in place will be found, I'm sure, through Lynn Owens and the inquiry about the previous release, but there clearly needs to be a wider analysis of what's going wrong, because it's not acceptable in anybody's minds, any member of the public or anybody in a position of authority, that somebody who is in prison should be released by mistake.
Yeah. Harriet, your thoughts?
This is very worrying because, the British public will be rightly concerned that these people are at loose. And Rob was saying that there's been 262 released. So I think that's over 100% increase since David Lammy became Justice Secretary. And I noted that he was sort of flailing around and trying again to blame the previous government. But actually, these are decisions that he's taken to shorten some of these prison sentences, to let more people out earlier. And we think that there's a better approach, which is to make sure that prison spaces are freed up. Of course, yes, we need to build some more prison places, but we also need to make sure that the foreign prisoners in our prisons are deported, and that those who are there on remand get through the court system. We, put resources at getting that backlog through very, very quickly. So there is a different approach to the approach that David Lammy himself has chosen to take, which is to let people out early.
There was some interesting politics going on there, wasn't there? Because clearly James Cartledge knew about this case and kept going back with the same question, really putting David Lammy in a very awkward position.
Well, our job as His Majesty's loyal opposition is to hold the government's feet to the fire. And, clearly in this case, and I think Kemi Badenoch has shown in Prime Minister's questions that she's been very effective at doing that. And we want the government to shift their policy on this, and we oppose what they're doing. And so that is why the opposition does what it does.
Monica?
Well, I mean, what a mess and how embarrassing, again, for the government. And I have to say, my constituents watch PMQs. This is the thing that they watch most out of all Parliament. And the fact that David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, refused to answer the questions when he must have known. Of course, he knew what was going on. But I would take issue with that this is all the government's fault. Let's not forget the mess that the Conservative Party put our prisons in. Prison overcrowding, which has led to prisoners being let out early. But what we need now, my constituents and the public need to be reassured that prisoners are not being let out by mistake. This has happened twice now. The government needs to get a grip and keep us safe.
So I think it's interesting on this point about embarrassing, just as a tonal thing. Like I don't think it's just embarrassing. I think it's really, really deeply concerning for the victims. I think we need to put them at the heart of our criminal justice system, and the government are trying to do that with our new Victims and Courts Bill, but there is a lot to do. I had a constituent recently come into me, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I was really emotionally upset by what she told me, which was that the judge in her case had found that the perpetrator of child sexual abuse should not be given a custodial sentence, and cited the state of the prisons. So case law that had said that the state of the prisons meant we shouldn't be locking up people. And I just find that utterly appalling. We have to make sure that those who commit these crimes face proper justice. And unfortunately, the prison situation that we have inherited is a national disgrace. And I think the court systems as well. It's been very, very difficult.
Somebody from prison, you can't blame the previous government for allowing an offender.
No, and obviously we don't know the details of
this.
And I do not want to scapegoat members of staff, right? That is not what, I don't think anybody should ever go down that route. It is a system-wide problem. There is a broken system that we've inherited. That is obvious to all of your viewers and to all of us on the panel that this is completely should not have happened.
And just on that point about David Lammy, clearly knowing about this case.
I don't know if it is clearly. I don't know if he knew. I haven't spoken to him about it, so I wouldn't want to say that was the first I'd heard about this breaking news.
It's very unlikely that he didn't know.
I couldn't comment on that.
Do you think if he did know, he should have acknowledged it?
I'm not entirely sure how this story has been broken at this point. So I don't know what briefing's gone on, so I wouldn't want to comment on that.
I just think that, we're well into the second year of this Labour government, and their fallback position, and you saw it again with David Lammy today, is just to flail out and not accept any responsibility. We saw it yesterday with Rachel Reeves. All of a sudden, everything's everyone else's fault, not her fault, and not the choices she made in last year's budget to hike taxes on all of these businesses, not the choices she made in last year's budget to increase borrowing. Suddenly, nothing's anyone's fault when things go wrong, and I think that the government would do well to start accepting responsibility and trying to fix things.
And Monica Harding, just looking at a bit more detail of this, the Met Police confirmed to us, Sky News, shortly after 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 4th of November, so yesterday, that's when the Met was informed by the prison service that the prisoner had been released in error. On Wednesday, the 29th of October. There were days between him being mistakenly released and the Met actually becoming aware.
I mean, it's unthinkable. And it's also unthinkable that the Justice Secretary didn't know that this was happening. And he had a chance to be accountable in front of the nation and refused to take it. Yeah. The public right now need reassurance. If you pointed out this happened, it seems like the police took their time to do something about it, and then the Justice Secretary refuses to countenance the fact that it's happened. People are worried. Of course they're worried. To have people like this on the street, the government need to get a grip. We need an investigation on what actually happened, and the government need to focus on getting reoffending rates down, the court backlog down, and putting in place community policing, proper community policing, to stop these offenders if they are released, and they shouldn't be released.
Yeah, I mean, Harriet, just again, reading a bit more of the information here. He was serving time for trespass with an intent to steal, but's previously committed sexual offences. And, as we were hearing from Monica, the public are going to be really concerned
really
about
anxious, really worried. And what led, of course, to the catching of Habish Kabatu last weekend was publicising, and it was a member of the general public who actually spotted him and called the police. So perhaps the Met would do well to let us know through your broadcast what this person looks like, so that we can try and assist the Met Police in their inquiry.
Yeah, I'm sure more detail will be coming throughout the afternoon. Just on a slightly different point, but still not great news for the government, is that the Home Secretary announced a bit earlier today that an individual who was removed from the country on the 19th of September returned to the UK via a small boat on the 18th of October and has now been returned again. I mean, it's in, out, in, out. What's going on there?
So we have got to keep going with our agenda to make sure that people cannot use the channel to cross and enter the country illegally. There are huge swathes of work going on to make sure that this isn't an easy route for people, and it is very difficult. But one of the things that we have done is create the returns agreements with different countries that the last government completely failed to do. And the second thing is we're bolstering the border force to make sure that there are actually people to meet and arrest people, and to make sure that things are going properly in that sense. Because the last government lost control of this, and we have seen a huge number of people that it is organised, and so we've got to tackle the criminal gangs that are exploiting the tax system and international networks to basically rip off the taxpayer, and it absolutely can't continue.
But you're well into your second year. Not a single gang smashed, as far as I'm aware. 60,000 people have come across illegally in small boats. And you cancelled something that was going to work effectively as a deterrent, which is a third country, in our case, Rwanda. And just to pick you up, Lola, on the returns agreement with Albania and Vietnam, which were negotiated under our government.
Okay, but sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to tell our viewers about a tweet we've had from Kemi Badenoch in the last few moments. She has said on social media, James Cartledge MP asked the Deputy Prime Minister 5 times to tell us if another migrant sex offender had been accidentally released from prison. Instead of answering, Lammy lost his temper. Now we read, it has happened again, and he's been on the run for a week. This is a shambles of a government. Lola McAvoy, Labour MP for Darlington, Harriet Baldwin, Conservative MP for West Worcestershire, and Monica Harding, Liberal Democrat MP for Esher and Walton. Thank you all very much indeed. Just going to remind our viewers of the breaking news this hour. Another foreign prisoner is on the run after being mistakenly released. Sky News has learned the error at HMP Wandsworth in South London happened on the 29th of October, just 5 days after the high-profile release of migrant sex offender Habish Kabatu. Plenty more at the top of the hour.